Well, howdy, 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 and welcome to the Red Dirt Aggie Show. I'm Brian, the Red Dirt Aggie, and I'm here today with Keller Cox, an Aggie himself, former Yell leader turned Texas musician. And how you doing today, Keller?
Dude, doing great. Thank you for having me, Brian. Appreciate you having me on the show.
Right on, man. Well, we're excited to have you. And why don't you just you want to just take a second and kind of just introduce yourself a little bit, say hi to our listeners, and
Yeah, for
once we
sure.
get a chance to
Well,
do that.
since it is the Red Dirt Aggie, is it Red Dirt Aggie podcast or how do you
We're the
say
Red
it?
Dirt Aggie Show, but it's a
Yes,
podcast, so I mean
yes.
that
And
works
since it's
too.
the Red Dirt Aggie show, I'll start out by saying howdy. My name is Keller Cox, and yeah, I'm from Houston, Texas. And
Right
like
on.
Brian said, I went to Texas A&M University. Graduated there. I'm class of 2021, but took a victory lap and graduated in 2022. And yeah, studied construction science there and fell in love with Texas country music. And then here I am, about 2 years later, or actually like a year later, only a year out of college, doing the thing, kicking the can down the road, and trying to make this thing happen. But yeah, that's a little bit about myself, man. I'm sure we'll get into the nitty gritty of things here in a little bit, but that's kind of the overview. Um, but yeah,
Yeah, man. Well, we're excited to have you here. I actually, I'd heard a few of your songs before, and then I went to see William Beckman play the other day, actually at Harry's in College Station. My wife and I were up there, and you were the opener, man, and it was awesome. So it was pretty cool getting to see you
heck
play
yeah, dude.
there. But
That was one of my favorite shows of the year, dude. I love playing at Harry's, and I think that was a band favorite too. So that's awesome that you
yeah,
got to catch the show, man. What'd you think? Did you enjoy it?
I did. I enjoyed it a lot. Both your performance and William Beckman as well, man. He's incredibly talented as well.
Yeah, dude. He's a fan. He's a band favorite. We are. I feel like I don't know. His voice is so calming, and I don't know.
yeah,
I'll listen to him while washing the dishes, or before we're going out to play a show. We were opening up for Josh Abbott a couple like maybe a month ago up in Fort Smith, Arkansas, and we were jamming William Beckman in the green room. Yeah, we love his music, man.
yeah. We had him on the podcast a while back as well. And he was a great interview too. Just a super nice guy.
Heck yeah, dude.
But so you were a Yell leader back at A&M. We'll start off with that. Can you share a little bit about your experience just being a Yell leader and what that meant to you at A&M?
Yeah, dude. It was the wildest 2 years, 2 years of experience. Really, I mean, just to get to put your name in the hat to be a Yell leader. I was in the Corps of Cadets, which is the ROTC program at A&M. For those of you who don't know and are going to be listening into this, but I didn't contract with the military. I kind of just did it for the tradition sake of it. And so it was called DNC, which is like no basically means like you don't have a contract. And anyways, I put my name in the hat. The Corps of Cadets has an extensive process to that they kind of vet their candidates to be on the ballot to be a Yell
Right.
leader, and anyone can be a Yell leader, whether you're a normal student or in the Corps. And historically, it's gone to someone that's in the Corps. And anyways, ended up getting elected, selected by the voted by the student body to be a Yell leader my junior year, and then got reelected my senior year, and ended
Right.
up serving as the head Yell leader. But yeah, man, it was just a wild experience of just like we did over 300 events a year. I think now it's up to like 400 events a year.
Yeah, it's crazy.
But it was just, yeah, I mean, I don't even know how to explain it. It was just so fast paced. But to be honest, my experience as a Yell leader really kind of prepared me for my experience as a musician of
Yeah.
just kind of, you're having events, even as a musician, like you have like just the same amount of events when it really gets busy, of like doing a podcast, doing an interview, then going out on
Right.
the road, which we traveled as Yell leaders to all the home and away football games. We did men's and women's basketball games that were home, soccer, volleyball, all the new student conferences, fresh fish camps, which are like the orientations,
Oh yeah.
and so all those things, like we just were constantly going and constantly performing, like that was
Yeah.
our, it was different than
So
performing as a musician, but still we were in front of people, we were meeting people, networking, we were, and something they taught us as yell leaders was that you couldn't like every experience that you had with someone else, you had to treat it like it was like their first and last experience with A&M. So we were like kind of like the face of A&M, and what that
Yeah.
taught, like they literally would be, they were like, hey, if you like are having a bad day, like you can't have a bad day because like someone's gonna recognize you as the yell leader. Oh, that's Keller, the yell leader. And
Yeah.
if you're just in a bad mood or whatever it is, like, well, man, that's going to leave a bad taste in their mouth. And, kind of transfer that to music. Like, man, when you get noticed as a musician, like, man, those are people that, like, I like to say, like, those are the people that keep your lights on, like, they're the ones that are
Yeah.
coming to the show. And so, and like, I mean, like let's say you're having a bad day. Well, like, you should be happy regardless to meet a fan. Like, they're the ones that, like I said, they keep your lights on. They come to your shows. They listen to your music. They're the one that are empowering you to do like your dream, and chase the dream. And
Yeah.
so, anyways, I don't know if this answers your question, but being a yell leader was a wild experience, and I found that it really prepared me to be a musician, if that makes sense.
No, and I think that does make sense. And just given that all the travel and the preparation, and like you said, you're going and you're doing a performance, and it's I'm sure it's exhausting being a yell leader just as it is being a musician and traveling all the time. And I think having like that tight schedule and all of those events and things to go to, kind of in and of itself, would prepare you. And then I like the analogy with like you have to put on a face even if you're having a bad day, because it's like, hey, like I'm so lucky to get to be doing this in a way, and I'm
Right, and
representing like something else.
yeah, I hate the term like put on a face, but it's not like
Yeah.
because like I consider myself like a very genuine person, like I'm not like fake, but
Yeah.
so like but it's like that it's like the almost like not even putting on a face, I would say, but it's like, man,
Staying positive, kind of.
realizing what's more important, and like dying to yourself for 5 minutes, or for the
Yeah.
picture kind of thing,
Or
but I
staying
guess
positive, sort of like in that right like frame of mind.
right, and some people maybe they do put on a face, and they
Yeah.
have to be completely different than they are. But like the person you're getting right now is the person I am, kind of thing.
Yeah.
But it's just that dying to yourself of like, man, I've had a horrible day, and I need to go take this picture. I need to do this kind of thing. Maybe that's the better term of like, I don't know, dying to yourself and realizing what's more important. So
Yeah, and I think in lately, in social media, especially lately, hasn't been so kind to yell leaders and to A&M's traditions and things.
oh,
And
dude,
what
that's I
what do you
don't
have to
I
say
could
about
care.
that?
I could care less, dude.
I
We
mean,
used
me
to have
too,
this
but
we used to have this saying in we used to have this saying in the ROTC and I was in Squadron 17, and I was like on the public relations like part of our unit or whatever. It's basically
right,
like it was an all male unit. It was basically a fraternity of guys, and we
yeah,
would say any publicity is good publicity. So I mean, like, I'll say that, dude. Like, they can hate all they want to, but from the outside looking in, you can't understand it. And from the inside looking out, you can't
you can't
explain it. And
explain
so
it.
I got all these like DMs of like, oh look, Dave Portnoy is like shouting you out like throwing shade to the Aggies, and it's like, whatever, man. Like, it's gonna be a
It's
part of
like, yeah,
who we are forever. So just
hmm
man, they're talking about us, so we're not talking about them. So I mean, hey,
yeah,
that's
free
all I gotta
publicity.
say about that. So
Yeah, man, and you know, what was it that really kind of inspired you or made you want to get into music from the beginning?
man, that's a great question. It started back in eighth grade. I learned how to play the guitar back in eighth grade. So I've played guitar for a long time, and man, grew up on 2000s country music. So grew up on like the George Straits, Alan Jacksons,
Yeah,
Toby Keith, Tim McGraw, Kenny Chesney, like just the list goes on. But all of those kind of mainstream, like grew up on that the radio country music.
right. Yeah,
And so was playing guitar, was leading worship in church, and learning how to sing into a microphone, leading worship at school, and then kind of led at a camp, but like all of that like together, like I also like would play at campfires. Like my dad would always like say, hey, you got to play a 3-song concert, and I hated it. I got so uncomfortable with it, but then I started like playing more in front of people, and Really,
Yeah.
the thing. So that was kind of my background of music, and then in college when I went to A&M, I just got immersed into the Texas country scene, and
Yeah.
that was like what really did it for me, man. I vividly remember being a freshman and someone showing me a song by Flatland Cavalry, and I was like, "What is this?" I'd never heard
Oh
anything like
yeah.
it. I didn't know what Texas country music was, and like, and yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I didn't realize like my first exposure to Texas country wasn't like through one of the old greats of like Robert Earl Keen or Jerry Jeff Walker or like Pat Green. Like I didn't know anything other than like Flatland, and then obviously went down all the different rabbit holes of like those
Oh yeah.
people.
There's like
Parker
such a
McCullum
deep
was
like
right
yeah.
with them coming up. So I remember listening to like Meet You in the Middle in my truck when I was in college and different people like Turnpike Troubadours. But Flatland was my true like first like man, this is Texas country, and that's what really did it for me, man. That and being we went out to the dance halls to like Hurricane Harry's pretty much every Thursday. My
Oh
the
yeah.
summer of my between my junior or sophomore and junior year, and that really did it for me too because you're around the music so much, you're dancing, and you're at the venue that where it's where everyone plays in College Station, and I just was super inspired and ended up getting to meet Cleto from Flatland and chat about this dream of chasing country music and flash
Yeah.
forward and here I am doing the thing. But yeah, that was kind of my story of just growing up on it, and then A&M really changed everything for me. So
And that's I would say I honestly had like a similar story of how I got into the whole like loving Texas country music and all that. Like, I'd always liked like country music or what I thought was country music, right? Or
yeah,
was just country music. Like, grew up listening to Nashville stuff or whatever, and then I got up to A&M, and some of my buddies were like playing music and stuff, hanging out in our dorm and whatnot, and they're playing. I think it was people like Josh Abbott band, Cody Johnson, and
yeah,
like these guys. And then we went and we saw Cody Johnson at like his back to school bash or whatever. And I'm like, whoa, there's this like whole other like side of country music. And then I went and saw Parker McCollum open for Josh Abbott band at Harry's like in 20. I think it was 2015 or 2016, my
that's crazy,
freshman or
dude.
sophomore year. And yeah, just that the fact that he was just playing opening shows for a few hundred people, if that, and now he's selling out arenas. That's crazy on Parker's side, but
Man, that's nuts, man. So that's kind of your story of that. How did you get into doing like this? The Red Dirt Aggie show. Like what kind of inspired you to like just turn on a microphone and put this out into the world? How did that
I
get started?
I don't know. So like I just love A&M, and I love music, and I love sports, and so I was like, well, I talk about this stuff with my friends. I talk about it to my family. I'm like, what if I just like got a microphone and like recorded what I thought and see if people want to listen. And then I got the idea, like, what if I had guests? So I kind of like put out a thing on Twitter, and Rich O'Toole was actually our first guest, who of course happens to be an Aggie and then is involved in the music scene. And of course, he was a hilarious guy to interview. I don't know if you see him or follow him on social media or not, but
I don't think I follow him, no, but
he's an interesting guy for sure. But really, that kind of started it. And I mean, when I first was recording episodes and stuff, it was just like when I would do an interview, it was just audio only on the podcast at first, and I would like hold my phone up to a microphone and like play it off speaker. Then eventually, I was like, I need to put these on YouTube, so I just figured out how to do it, and now here we are. So now I reach out to people every now and then through social media, or I try to email their managers or whatever contact information I can figure out. And
yeah.
some people say yes, and some people don't respond, but we see what happens. So you never know who's going to
Man,
respond.
I'm
We got
yeah, dude.
Parker, and
I'm
yeah,
glad that we figured it out to do it because it's so cool. I mean, my passion is writing and singing the music and doing it like live, but then your passion is to capture the story behind it, and
yeah,
like, it's fun to have the opportunity to put this out into the world because we have the information and you have the means to like to put it out into the world through a different through a different medium. Like we're writing the songs and hey sharing our story, but you're kind of getting the backstory of it. So hats off to you. Thank you to you for doing this, man. That's
Well,
awesome.
yeah, man, and thanks for taking the time to be on too. Like that's what's cool is that a lot of artists on the scene and even some of the bigger ones like Parker and stuff have been willing to sit down and kind of talk to us for a while and share their stories. And everyone that comes on here is just generally so nice and so informative and patient and kind of just gives their stories. So it's been pretty fun and pretty cool.
Dude, yeah, that's the crazy thing that I've learned as I've gotten to know some people that are like bigger artists in the scene of like everyone's just a normal person, you know? Like
Yeah, like that's what you find
everyone's
out.
like, oh
Like,
my gosh, dude, like that's whoever named the name or whatever, and it's like if you get in a room with them, unless they're like not a nice person, but genuinely like pretty much all of the Texas country artists that I know are like pretty good-hearted people that are just trying to make a living for themselves, and
yeah,
it's like that weird like facade of like, oh, that's whatever, like it's like they're really big, but really at the end of the day, like we're all just
just
normal
normal
people,
people.
So
That was like what I got from Parker for sure. It's like this is just like a normal dude who's has a lot of money. Like, you know, not in a disrespectful, just like this is just a guy who's very successful and he's, living his life
yeah,
and it's
he
like,
just
but
he
he's
woke up one day and
completely,
was like, man, I want to tell my story, and one
yeah,
thing
like,
led to the other, and here he is, like telling a story on a bigger medium. So it's
and that's
cool.
awesome. Yeah. And I hope that, a lot of the guys that are out there working as hard as he is are going to have the same opportunities that he does. Cause I mean, there's just so much talent out there in the industry.
Yeah, man.
Um, but you know, what are maybe some of the coolest things that you've gotten to be a part of so far in your music career? I know you said you got to meet Cleto, who was kind of the guy who got you into the whole scene and kind of inspired you a little bit. So,
Yeah,
but maybe what are some of those things?
you said some of the coolest experiences, or
Yeah, coolest experiences or coolest people you've gotten to work with, just
yeah,
anything like that.
dude. Man, I'll name a couple, and you can just kind of cut me off. I feel like there's been like a bunch of different moments for me. I think my
Yeah.
favorite one, like overall, is just getting to know all the Flatland guys and like really just calling them family. Like, have really just gotten. We have the same management, and so that's. I guess I'll
Okay.
tell. I can kind of tell that story maybe of how I got connected with them,
Yeah.
if that works. But I met they have a media guy named Fernando Garcia. He does like all of their. He's kind of their creative director, and I met
Hmm.
him at Chili Fest. I was volunteering
Oh, heck yeah.
at Chili Fest back in, I want to say it was probably 2019.
Hmm.
It was April of 2019. I met Fernando. I was volunteering at Chili Fest. I was a part of an organization called Aggie Men's Club,
Okay.
AMC, and so like they were doing a volunteer thing. And if you worked a 4 hour shift, you got like your checked off your volunteer hours or whatever. But if you worked an
Yeah.
8 hour shift, you get free tickets into the show the next day. So
Oh,
I worked
nice.
8 hours on a Friday night just to get free tickets to see Flatland at Chili Fest because I wasn't gonna pay, and
Yeah.
broke college kid, and so I worked. Me and my friend and I, we worked 8 hour shifts, kept our staff shirts on, or like kept our staff shirts in our fanny packs for the next day, and so we watched Flatland play, and then at the very end of the show, we went into like a porta potty, put our staff shirts on, and walked back in the back and met all the guys and met Fernando there. And flash forward, like we became, I got his number, and I had not written any music at that point. I was just a fan of it. And then a year later, I started writing some songs. And anyways, I think that summer actually, 2019, I wrote my first song, California Cowgirl, and got a bunch of music together. And COVID happened, and went into the studio and ended up contacting Fernando to do some like photo shoots and stuff. And
Yeah.
anyways, long story short, like they invited me out to some shows that they had in beginning of 2020 at Hurricane Harry's, and or
Yeah.
2020, I think it was 2021 actually. And Fernando was like, "Hey, you want to come hang out with us?" And I was like, "Man, can I work or something? Can I do something to like, be have a reason to be there?" And ended up getting to work merch for them all 3 nights, and they kind of really took me in as like family that weekend because I was a part of the crew, and their
Yeah.
manager found out that I did music, and at the end of the weekend, like I, ended up getting a spot with their management, and it was just this
Oh, shoot.
crazy experience. Like like you just don't make it up, kind of thing, And got to
Yeah.
go up on stage and sing a song with them at the end of the weekend, and basically from that moment forward, that they kind of invited me into their family, and I got to, even at one point that later that year, got to go on the road with them, like, and open up shows acoustic for them. Like,
Yeah.
they invited me out, and I got to stay on the bus for 3 nights, and it was just this weird, like, surreal experience. But that's kind of been one of my favorites, of just like,
Yeah.
these guys, I was such a fan, and I still am. Like, I still will listen to their stuff when they release it as a fan, but get
Right.
to like text them and get to know what's going on in their lives and get advice from them, because they're so much farther down the road than I am. Of
Right.
man, what do you do when the road gets tough and it's hard being away from home, and and you're trying to communicate with your spouse, like those types of conversations, like
Yeah.
get to reach out to like Jason and Cleto and John and those different guys and all the guys in the band, really. But man, just that's been a super cool moment for me. There's also moments of like you're on Josh Abbott's doorstep and you're knocking on his door because he invited you over to write a song with him, and you're like, man, what is, like, why am I, like, who let me do this? Like, that was a moment for me this summer. Got to write with Josh and get to know him a little bit, and it just like stuff like that, dude. You're like, man, this is crazy. Like, it's all feels like a dream.
Yeah.
But yeah, dude, I just feel like getting to know the Flatland guys, getting to meet all the different like heroes of Texas country, has
Right.
been cool. Of like, getting to meet Josh. Got to meet William Clark Green a while back,
Oh yeah.
which was a fun experience, and just knowing all their relationships with each other. And I'm sure to only get, if the ball keeps rolling like I wanted to, getting to meet different people like that. But I feel like those have been some like pretty surreal experiences for me.
Right.
But yeah, I don't know if that kind of answers your question.
No, that's exactly what I was talking about. Just the cool things that you've gotten to be, a part of as a result of having a career in this scene, in the
Yeah,
music scene,
dude.
the people that you
It's
meet along the way and the opportunities you get just because of the fact that you're like, I don't know how to explain, just because you're in the scene, like you meet one person and also it's all about it's as much of who you know, I guess, really,
no, dude, it really is. I like to
to get
say like
started.
the Texas scene is crazy because let's say you meet someone on a Thursday night, you're opening up for someone, and let's say we'll take both scenarios. Like, let's say you're opening up for someone in College Station, it's like, let's say it's Flatland or whatever, and you're meeting them for
Yeah.
the first time, and you open up for them, and let's just say you drop the ball, like let's say
Yeah.
you're just not a great person and your band is horrible and you play over the set time and all the worst things happen. Well, that, let's say they get wind of that, like if they're playing in Lubbock the next night, like your reputation literally goes over text. Like, they could play in Lubbock and then they could be all the way back in like, in El Paso, and like you're like, let's say they're with other people and then they're talking like they're talking about your name. That's what
Yeah.
I've learned though. Is like, man, your word spreads so fast in the Texas scene because there's so much like mileage is covered overnight. And
Yeah.
people do talk, and your reputation does precede you, and so. But then, on the other hand, of like, man, you make a good impression on someone, and you do what the right, as an opener, you're supposed to do, which is get your stuff off stage,
Yeah.
before, like, as soon as your time slot's done, and like that thing, then man, those people speak for you, and you go around, and but before you know it, you meet someone, they're like, oh, I've heard of you, and they've heard probably good things about you. And that's
Yeah.
how it
That's a
works, man.
smart.
It's just such a small bubble, and people are traveling so much that word kind of spreads real quick. I like to say, like, you could sneeze in Lubbock and they'll say bless you in Houston. Like, it's just like it literally goes, word travels so fast in the scene. So
I'm impressed by how much like distance that some of these artists and stuff travel just overnight to play a show the next day too. Because like you said, like College Station to Lubbock and stuff. Like I know Josh Abbott's done that before, and I'm sure plenty of other people have too. But I saw him. I saw Josh Abbott this year, and I think it was at Harry's, and had said they were playing in like Lubbock the next night or something. I'm just like, man, like they're gonna get done here, at 2 in the morning and then drive all the way up
yeah,
there.
dude.
Like,
And it's nice, on their level, they have the bus, and so they can just kind of go to
sure,
sleep,
but
go to sleep at like 3 in the morning and wake up at 11, and that's kind of do it all over again. But at my level, I'm not at the bus level, so it's like,
right,
man, do we drive halfway the night of, and you get somewhere, you pack up, you're like trying to calculate, man, do I sell merch for like an hour to try and make the gas money, or do we just stay the whole night and lose a bunch of sleep and just stay and then wake up at the butt crack of dawn and go
Yeah.
travel however many hours. It's an interesting season for me of like trying to figure out the whole living, like doing the van thing right now. So,
Yeah.
but yeah,
And,
man, it's nuts.
and what would you say is your favorite part of creating music?
Oh, dude, that's a loaded question because I feel like like my favorite part is like writing the song. That's a cool
Sure.
moment. But then also recording the song is such a cool. I mean, that's one of the best parts. Is like making the song come to life. And then
Yeah.
I think I think I would say it's a three-parted thing. It's like it's writing it and getting to live with it by yourself, and then
Hmm.
recording it and getting to live with that, and then release day is like the best day ever. Like
Right.
that's like getting to finally just like put it out there,
Be
and
like, look what I
that's a
did.
good. But then flash forward, like man, getting to play the song live is a whole nother experience too. So I think just the different moments along the way are my favorite part. But I would have to say like release day is like one of the biggest reliefs. Like you're like, oh, it's finally out. Like I can finally just like let other people experience it, and you get to like kind of gauge, man, I've gotten to live with this song, for a year and a half, could be 2 3 years at that point. And you're like, do people
Yeah.
like it? Do they hate it? Do they, you know? But that's I think long story short, release day is one of the best days.
Well, and I kind of feel the same. Like with whenever I record a new interview or new episode or something for this podcast, I'm like, I like filming the interview and doing that, obviously, because it's cool. Like, doing the interview.
Yeah,
And then once it's finally like all uploaded and finalized and like the thumbnails are put on or whatever, and it's all edited and uploaded, that's the best feeling I get. It's like it's completely done and pushed, and then tomorrow at this time it's going live. Like I know that I can like not worry about it and just
yeah,
hope that it's gonna be successful.
yeah, dude. That's the weirdest
It's a
thing is we
great
can
feeling.
only know so much. You can only plan
Yeah,
so much, and you never know. I think that's life in general. You can only plan so much, and then life kind of just happens. And a
yeah,
lot of the times, like our plans really are not, they don't line up with the greater plan. And it's like we can
yeah,
only plan so much, and it's really up to the Lord to kind of put us where we're supposed to be at. Which is like
yeah,
why do we stress so much? It's like
yeah,
why do I get so worried and stressed out and try to figure it all out and feel like it's all up to me when at the end of the day like I have little control
yep,
about the greater plan.
yeah. What is the hardest part of being a musician? Is it coming up with new music or perfecting that music in the studio? Is it trying to make sure your performances are the best they could be, or is it something else like maybe the travel?
um man, that's I would say for me the hardest part I think as a young musician I think are the unknowns. Like I
Right.
think that's one of the hardest parts, and I think I would say that like just the unknowns of what's going to happen because you haven't solidified yourself yet. You're still trying to cut your teeth, and
For
you're
sure.
trying to make a living. I'm married. I have my wife and I.
Yeah. Same.
We got married a year. Yeah, exactly. I got married a year and a half ago, and so
Six months.
that. Heck yeah! Congratulations, dude.
Yeah.
That's
Thank you.
awesome. Do y'all meet at A&M or?
No, she's a Bearcat, but we met at work. We both worked at the same school. I'm a teacher, and she was a paraprofessional, but now she's actually got a different job. But we met at school at work.
Heck yeah, man! Congratulations, dude. Yeah, but
Yeah.
like it's like trying to make a living, and so that's one of the hardest parts, I think. And then the other one that I found really when I started to get on the road this year for the first time and really gig and do the thing, it's just like I think the come down, of just the Monday mornings, man, are an interesting thing
Yeah.
as a musician because you're there with your thoughts and you've been on the road all weekend and you're back home and you're like just trying to I think I really struggled with that this year of like learning how to transition from being on the road to back home and how to make that switch and really struggled for a second, man, of just trying to figure it out and have
Yeah.
been able to do some different things that have helped me, like just whether it's writing more. I think writing is a good outlet. Learned
Oh
about
yeah.
like uh like cold showers or like cold plunging or like breathing exercises that help you
Yeah. Kind of relax.
just kind of calm down, and
Hmm.
it's easy to just get in this like almost like fight or flight mode with your thoughts sometimes. And yeah, just that's I think that's been one of the hardest parts of like, how do I do this, and how do I come down, and how do I kind of move around from city to city and still kind of keep this level kind of thought process in my mind.
Right.
um, that's been one of the hardest things for me. And next year, I don't know if you saw this, but I get to go on tour with this group called the Castellos.
Oh yeah, I did see
And
that
so
the
I'm
other day.
going on like a 16 show run. Or not 16 show, but 16 different shows. Across February, March, and April, and it's going to be
Wow.
all over the states, from Georgia, Atlanta, Georgia, all the way up to like Indianapolis and Michigan, and just like it's going to be nuts. But I think this year was very like formative for me, of like preparing me of like
Yeah.
and I'm sure I've got a lot to learn. I'm not like saying I'm like completely ready, but I think
Right.
I'll have some different kind of tips and tricks that I've learned from older artists, of like, man, this is how you kind of just are able to keep your mind in the right spot while you're on the road. So, but yeah, those are the two hardest parts, dude. I would say the unknowns, and then the road itself is a beast.
Yeah. And then, who are some of your biggest influences as a musician? Like some artists, your biggest influences?
Dude, well, for sure, like I said already, Flatland. But then
Yeah.
as I got into doing music full time, like, really dove into like all like I feel like I'm a student of music. I just
Right.
try to listen, to albums like A to Z, and try to, like, what I mean is like all the way through. And
Yeah.
really have been a fan of like, um, Shawn Mendes, John Mayer, Justin Bieber. Um, I'm trying to think of like some different like outlandish ones that I like dove into, like a bunch of Taylor Swift stuff. I don't know if I mentioned Ed Sheeran yet, but like just like, man, really dove into like a lot of these like people that are doing it on like the highest level of their
Yeah.
songwriting and stuff. And I've been a Post Malone fan recently.
Yeah.
Just been nuts. Like, just and when I say fan, like, I'll listen to their music and then like search up interviews and podcasts, like stuff like
Yeah.
this, and get to know who they are. And
Well, then
so that's
Post
been cool.
Malone. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead, go ahead.
I was just gonna say he's so talented, like in so many different genres of music. Like people don't know. Well, some people don't know, I guess, because he has this whole like the rap side of things, but then he's also like there's videos online of him playing country and playing like all these other different genres and acoustic guitar and piano and just he's so like talented
Yeah, dude.
musically that it's just nuts.
Yeah, I think Post is coming out with a country album soon.
That's gonna be sweet.
I heard. So, but like, then yeah, I would say those. I mean, obviously, like, I love the Turnpike Troubadours, their new album. I've been getting into Noah Kahn recently, who's like an
Yeah,
indie person. My wife kind of introduced me to his music, and like I said, I'm a student. Like, I like to listen to a bunch of things and try to. The more you can put in, the better, the
yeah,
more different your album's gonna be. And I feel like this new, I've been working on a new album recently, and I feel like it's got a lot of kind of just different stuff on it, meaning like it's just the product of everything that I kind of put in
yeah,
over the past 2 years. And I can't even imagine what the next one's going to be, after this and down the road of just, I dove into the Beatles too. I mean, I
yeah.
mean, dude, like, just literally, it's just like the more I can put in, I feel like the better output I can put out into the world.
Well, and you could probably take like a little something away from every musician you watch or listen to, just about, right? I mean, like even if it's just a little piece of it here or there, and then they kind of blend it together and it makes it with what you. It kind of just becomes a new like creation.
No, absolutely, man. I think, there's a saying of like, you're the average of the top five people you hang around. And I bet that goes the same for, you're the average of the top five musicians that you listen to or want to emulate. And,
Yeah.
and then you've got to figure out at the end of the day who you are. I just can't be like,
Hmm.
this blend of every, you find your
Yeah,
sound and what, but man, it's the whole idea of like nothing's new under the sun, like
yeah,
it's all been done before, but can you do it in a way that's unique to who you are? Is the goal of it, And if you can do that, then you can sell tickets and you can make a career for yourself.
yeah.
So, and that's what we're trying to figure out. And to be determined if we make it that far. So,
But now for the question of the day: do beans belong in chili? This is our Rich
absolutely
O'Toole
not.
question. No,
Absolutely not, dude.
absolutely not. So you're going the William Clark Green route? Absolutely
Absolutely.
not.
No
No
beans
beans.
in my chili, dude. No beans in my chili.
No beans in your
What are
Texas
you? Are
chili.
you beans in your chili guy?
Honestly, I am gonna go out on a limb and say I do like beans in my chili. So
Oh my gosh,
yeah,
dude.
I'm a disgrace, right? But my whole thing is like if I'm gonna eat a bowl of like meat soup, then it's probably just gonna give me heartburn. Like I don't
I mean,
know.
that's
Gotta
that's a
pop some
fair
tums
point, but
beforehand.
dude, yeah, I grew up on no beans in the chili. Also, I'm a huge fan of like the man. Honestly, you're gonna make me hungry. I'm gonna see if we have any chili in the fridge tonight. But man, like a good old Frito chili pie. You put your Fritos in, you put your chili in with no
well,
beans.
well, that's a little different. You don't necessarily need beans there, but like
No, dude, I think no beans at all points. But then you put some cheddar cheese on top of that, and then
yeah.
some mustard, dude. I'm a big fan of
Ooh,
mustard
mustard?
in my on my Frito chili pie.
Really
Yeah, I don't know.
interesting.
That's how I
See, I
kind
can't
of
do
grew up
mustard.
with it.
I can't do mustard on really anything. I hate mustard, but you know what I do like is honey mustard, which I've always found strange that I don't like mustard, but I like honey
There you
mustard.
go. Yeah, I'm a fan of honey mustard, dude. Good old chicken tendies with some honey mustard.
Yeah, or either honey mustard or
Dude,
like barbecue
I'm just
sauce
gonna
or something.
press end on the call and just go eat food. Talking about food so much, but
well,
yeah, definitely no beans in the chili.
well, sticking with food, um, if you're out on the road, going to play a show or just for anything, and you walk into a gas station, what's your go-to gas station snack?
Oh, dude, go.
What are you grabbing?
If they've got Dots pretzels,
Oh,
I'm grabbing
those are
I'm
so
grabbing Miss
good.
Dots pretzels, which are always like so pricey.
Yeah, but which
Maybe
flavor?
original. I'm an original
Original.
flavor fan, and also like Dots, and then a dark chocolate. Um, like so, if I'm at Bucky's, dude, I'm getting like a Dots pretzels, and then they
Yeah.
have these like sea salted caramels, dark
Oh yeah.
chocolates that are like two for $1, and that's like the perfect like little
The
salty
salty
and
and sweet.
sweet. Yep,
Yes.
yep. So
Yeah.
that's the thing. But then I also have a huge like trying to think, man. I have a huge sweet tooth, so like I like sour candy, which is not beneficial when you're on the road so much because you're like gotta limit the intake of that.
Yeah.
But love sour candy. I've been in this like sprees lately, which is not too very sour, but and then like I'll splurge too every once in a while. And be like, I'm getting a Dr Pepper icy, or something like that. Like if it's
Yeah.
like, but that's my go-to like gas station food.
Right
Um,
on.
is Dots. What about you? What's if you're on the road? What do you?
You know, I'm usually like a just like chocolate and maybe some chips, but like lately I've been eating the Andy Caps hot fries, like the ones in the blue bag that just say hot fries on them.
Interesting. Yeah,
I
yeah.
like those. I prefer those to like the Chesters or to like the other brands of hot fries. I don't know why. I guess because like they used to have those in the vending machine like back in middle school, and I just never got
Yeah.
over them.
Dude, yeah, I feel like food like that is like nostalgic,
Yes.
Like I feel like I don't know. I found myself doing that with different things too lately. Of like, man, this reminds me of that moment, and I want it because when I eat that thing or drink that thing, that I'm kind of brought back to those things.
Yeah.
Even like
And
beer, I feel like I've been more of like a Miller Lite guy recently, and
yeah.
I like all types of beer, but like the kind of baseline is like, like I had a bunch of good buddies of mine that we wrote a bunch of songs on this new album together, and like that was their like favorite drink, and so it's like it's almost nostalgic, to me. Or
Yeah.
like I good family friend that I worked on a job site back in 2021 and stayed with this family in Austin, and this guy like that was letting me stay at their house, like he was a big Miller Lite guy, And so I just think like I gravitated. But then like, or like when I have like a Coors Light, I'm reminded like the Flatland guys, like that's their kind of beer of choice. And so I don't know. I
Yeah.
just feel like you do things that like remind you of like you said, like you grab the bag of chips because you're like, man, that was me in middle school or whatever.
Yeah, that those different like flavors can take you back.
Sure, man, and that's like a comforting thing in and of itself. Like when you're like can have that moment of like, man, this is nice, like this is a good when something's bigger than just it being food. It's kind of nice to
Yeah.
have those little moments.
And do you have going back to your going back to more music focused questions, I guess, right? We're getting away
Yeah,
from
yeah.
food. But do you have a favorite song that you or your band has written that you or anyone else
A
with you has
favorite song that I've written.
favorite song that you have written or co-written? Yes,
Oh, dude. Yeah, I
I
would
guess is the way
say
I was trying to.
yeah. I've got one that's coming out next spring. I've been working on a new record. Cat's out of the bag. I'm not gonna tell you when it's coming out yet, but it's coming out next
Okay.
year. And there's a song on it called "The Joy of Life," and it's kind of a slower kind of ballad song, and it's like just my like a solo write. It was just me and my thoughts, and that's one of my favorites I've written so far. Um, and it's gonna come out in the top of the year, and yeah, I think it's one of my. I'm just so proud of it because it's kind of like where I was in this moment. It's kind of what I'm made of, on the inside, and it really just kind of
Yeah.
explains what I believe in. And so I think that's one of my favorites right now. And there's also like some past favorites that I've got of like I love the song Pink Chalk that I wrote about my wife when I was dating her. And that was another solo write. But then there's also some writes that like man, I've got some that are not released yet that are some of
Hmm.
my favorites, that aren't even
Yeah.
recorded yet. Like I've got some that are just like, a good old work tape on the phone or which is
Yeah.
so crazy that you can like this thing, like you can have a song on here that could be the next, could be the next thing and it's just literally sitting on a device, Or or in like an old journal, I journal like pretty much every day I try to write, and it could just be
Yeah.
sitting in a journal. There could be songs in a journal that I have on my wall that I don't even know yet about yet. Like I could get
Yeah.
inspired and who knows. So, but those are that. I think the song "The Joy of Life" is one of
Enjoy
my
life.
favorites. It'll come out next year. So
Well, we'll be looking forward to that. And we'll be sure to share it
yeah, dude,
whenever
you'll have
it's
to tune in,
released.
man. This new record that I've been working on. It's one of my favorite projects I've done. We got to record it up in Lubbock, Texas, at
Oh,
the
nice.
the amusement park studio, which is where Flatland Cavalry did like their Humble Folks, Homeland
Oh, yeah.
Security album. We got to work with Scott Ferris on it, and it's just it's
That's sweet.
smashing, dude. I'm excited about it. So,
Well, whenever whenever it gets closer to that coming out, we'll have to maybe we can bring you back on the podcast and
dude,
we'll talk about it
absolutely, I
for
would
sure.
love to be on, man. Would love to be on
Yeah.
again. This has been super fun to get to tell my story and get to know you a little bit and what you're about and I'm always
Yeah.
available, dude. So
Yeah, man. Well, what's the coolest venue that you've had the chance to play at, and what are some venues that you'd love the chance to play at someday?
yeah, dude. Coolest venue, John T. Flores Country Store.
Oh yeah.
I think that's one of my favorites. I mean, that's one of my favorites outside of like playing a hometown show. When I say hometown, I'm from Houston, but hometown like I feel like College Station is my second
Yeah.
hometown. So you can't beat a show at Hurricane Harry's, like that's one of my
Yeah.
favorites. But man, John T. Flores, they're so hospitable. Eating the tomato. I don't know if you've been there. Have you been there before?
I haven't had the chance to go yet, but it's on my like list of venues I want to go to. Being there, I haven't got to go there or Green Hall yet, and those are both like up
Okay,
there.
yeah, dude. I haven't gotten to play. That's that. Speaking of one of my goals, like that would be a goal is to play a sold out show at Green Hall on a Saturday
Yeah.
night. That would be a moment. Whether it's opening or headlining would be another thing in and of itself.
Yeah.
But yeah, John T. Floor is one of my favorites. Trying to search my memory, dude. Um, of anything else, any other place that I love to play. I would say that floor is one of my favorites. Would love to play
When you've
Great
done
Hall.
Harry's a few times, right?
I played Harry's a couple times, which I started out. I remember like vividly like sitting on stage on just a Thursday night where there wasn't like a band playing. Like
Yeah.
you could just sit on
You
the
can
stage
walk
if
up
you
there
wanted to.
and sit.
You can
Yeah.
walk up there and sit on a bar stool, and I
Hmm.
would try and like picture like, man, what would it be like to play a show here? And lo and behold, 2 years later, I'm getting to do it. So, but yeah, those are obviously would love to play the Grand Ole Opry one day, but I feel like that's something you
Right.
kind of just you don't really talk about. You kind of just wait for that opportunity to come. But there, man, yeah,
Right.
there's definitely places I want to play, and I want to get out and see the country too. And I'm
Yeah.
excited next year to get to do that on this tour that I'm going on, and I'm sure there'll be some places that that's the fun thing is like when you play at a place and you're like, whoa, I didn't even know this existed, and like
Yeah.
it might have been a bucket list venue for you, and you just got to show up and play it.
Yeah, and you didn't even know going
Yeah, you
into it.
didn't even
That's
realize
yeah.
it, till you're there. That's always the funnest experience.
And what's your favorite live concert that you've ever been to as a fan, where you weren't involved, performing, or maybe
Bro,
if you opened for
I might
someone
get
and then
some I
got to
might get
watch them.
some real hate for this one. Some real hate for this one. But man, I went to the Eras tour, the Taylor Swift uh,
Yeah.
tour this
Oh,
year, and
yeah.
that was absolutely nuts, dude. I think it was the whole
So
experience of
the
like,
production of that is just insane, honestly.
dude, 3 hours long. I mean, like, are you
Yeah.
kidding me? Like, just like the everything was thought through. I think that was a pretty cool. That was one of my favorite concert experiences.
Yeah.
But man, I mean, you also couldn't beat like I remember watching Flatland at the Tap in College Station on a non-sold out show. Just when they were
Yeah.
not big yet, and that
Hmm.
was one of my favorite pastimes. Um,
Yeah.
so, but I would say, yeah, dude, watching just the bigger acts do their thing on like the highest level is just so
Hmm.
inspiring. Um,
Yeah. Absolutely.
I love the band called Camp. I don't know if you've heard of them before.
Hmm.
They've got it's like C and then two A's, MP Camp.
Yeah.
They're like the Flatland Cavalry of Ohio. They're like a
Oh,
folk.
really?
Yeah, they're like this folk band, folk
Yeah.
indie music out of Ohio. They started out with as just like a banjo and a guitar, and now they're
Yeah.
this big thing. And their songwriter, um, Taylor Meyer, I think is his name, just phenomenal songwriter. Um,
Yeah.
but I got to see them live like a year ago, and that was a cool experience. Of like, man, this is like especially like when you've listened to someone's music for so long and you've never seen them live, and that like I don't know, I want to have those experiences of like seeing like I want to go see Ed Sheeran live and be like, what in the world, like, or go see Justin Bieber or these different people that you've listened to their music
Yeah.
and had so many experiences, but you've never seen them perform. You know?
Well, that was like I got to see George Strait at the rodeo. Not this. I think it was at Houston Rodeo. The last time he was there, and he did a full length concert the last day of the rodeo. And my now wife, then we were dating, but went and saw it, and that blew my mind. That he's as old as he is, he still sounds just the same. Just the
Yeah, dude,
same King
that's
George.
awesome, man. That's awesome.
And same thing. You listen to his music. I listened to his music for so many years, but never had the opportunity to see him live. And I just bit the bullet and bought the expensive tickets and sat way up high. But it was just cool to get the opportunity to see him perform live.
Yeah, 100%, bro. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's just it's always a neat experience when you get to see someone like that for the first time.
Mhm.
But do you have any other me, me, new music coming soon that you want to tell us about? I know you mentioned the new album, or just any announcements that you want to give us of shows coming up or anything while we have you here on the podcast.
Yeah, for sure. Well, for I guess for all the Texas people, I've got a new album um, coming out next year. Date to be announced very soon.
Yeah.
I would just keep your eyes peeled for the first week of January. Just kind of there'll be some things that we're announcing that week. But man, yeah, new album of 11 songs. Two of them are singles that are already out and available. There's a song called Two Step Back to You and then Shooting Stars and Whiskey, which are on the album. So that's coming up next year. going on an acoustic tour. Like I'm opening up acoustic for this band called the Castellos. It's a 16 show tour, and I was going to say for the Texas people playing, I think in Houston and Fort Worth. Let me see the dates real quick. Playing in Houston, Texas, or so Fort Worth on the 11th of April, and then in Houston on the 13th. So those are some Texas shows. Also playing at the Fort Worth Stock Show and Rodeo.
Yeah.
Playing the after party this spring. I think it's the 18th of January. So, which will be a fun party to get to kind of host. And
Yeah.
Fort Worth is very serious about like not having like a music, like it's not about the concert. It's about the rodeo. But then they
Right.
do have artists play the after party, and so getting to do that, which will be a big show for us. And yeah, man, that's kind of all I got cooked up right now. There's hopefully next year gonna hit the road more and get more opportunities to open up for people and start headlining some shows and seeing if the music draws a crowd. But
Yeah.
other than that, that's kind of the main thing right now. So
Well, yeah, man. And then, what are some things that you consider hobbies or that you're passionate about outside of music?
yeah, dude, that's a great question. Um, Outside of music, man, I enjoy just kind of hanging with my friends, getting to spend time with my wife. What are some hobbies that I've developed recently? I'm trying to think. Climbing. I indoor rock climb.
Oh, okay.
That's one of my favorite things. Like bouldering. It's not like hooked up. Like not when you're kind of just like climbing. Maybe it's like 15 feet off the ground, so it's not too
Yeah.
high. Like if you fall, like it might hurt you, but you're probably not going to get like you're falling onto like a pad. But that's
Yeah.
been something I picked up this year that I really enjoy. Is indoor rock climbing. It's
Okay.
like bouldering or whatever. That's a big thing. Gotten into film photography recently, which has been exciting. So bought a newer camera and
Yeah.
which is fun to take it on the road and getting pictures of my time on the road has been fun. Um,
If you ever open for anyone, you should see if they want you to take pictures too.
yeah, no, for
Go out and
sure.
shoot some pictures of 'em. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's been the fun part of like just getting to capture and with music like you're in charge of your social media and so it's like well if I
Yeah.
take these
So
good
yeah,
pictures then I can kind
give
of
it to
share
someone to
those and
take
share my
pictures of you.
story in
Yeah.
that way and but I would say those are the two main ones of like just spending time with friends and family like my wife and rock climbing and then also like yeah film photography writing I don't know that's kind of it right now so.
But thanks again, Keller, for taking the time to come on here today and hang out on the Red Dirt Aggie show. I'm Brian, the Red Dirt Aggie, and I just want to say thanks for coming and hanging out with us.
Dude, yeah, thank you for having me. Really, I mean, appreciate it. Give me a place to share my story, and would love to do it again whenever, man. So
Yeah,
thank you so
man, for
much,
sure.
and keep it up, man. Keep doing this because it provides us a chance to tell our story, and I appreciate you giving me the opportunity.
I'm Brian, the Red Dirt Aggie. That over there's Keller Cox. Thanks for hanging out with us today. As always, gig 'em and God bless, and we'll see you next time.
Yeah, dude, gig 'em. See ya. Thank you so much, Brian. You're the man.
Absolutely.